Well, hello again, Crocker seventh graders. It's time for us to go through the slideshows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off over here on our calendar. Let's move on to the first one I want you to check out, and that's our notes on producers, consumers, and decomposers, which I didn't put on there. Glad to see a few of you guys are on here already. I see Darren's there. All right, good to see Justin. Good to have you guys along as we go through this. Let's take a look at our slideshow. Now, by the way, I mean, at this point in time, I don't really see a point for doing output. It's going to be really hard for me to hold you guys accountable the way we were before. I'm going to attempt to make a Google form to make a real quick, easy way for me to assess whether or not you're actually following through. And then maybe I'll audit one assignment out of three, and you can make screenshots for me to ensure the fact that you're at least taking notes. Big Bear, right? Big Bear. I don't know if you guys ever see bears out there and they ever go camping. I've had quite a few bear stories going camping, and I'll tell you, some are big. Now, the brown bears are a lot bigger than black bears. In California, we only have black bears. Now, if you go outside of California, you go a little north, you get the brown bears, and those are huge, and they're killers too. You got to be careful with them. Our black bears out here in California are real docile. But even still, where does the energy for the big bear come from, right? Well, of course, they eat a variety of food. They're actually omnivores, all right? They are obtaining energy from the foods that they eat, all right, which originally came from the sun. So all of our, when we talk about the food chain and about where energy comes from. So before we even get into this whole idea about the flow of energy and talking about producers and consumers, let's just remember why we're doing this. It's about the food chain. It's like, how does the all of our food energy originally comes from sunlight and eventually gets to be us, right? You know, that's not us. But we could eat the goat. I ate a goat once. I was in Morocco. I was tricked. I thought it was a lamb. Turns out it was a goat. It was good though. Producers, producers are called. Here, take a look at yolks. We got plenty of time. There's Yogi. Right? Producers are called autotrophs. There's another name for them, and they have the ability to produce food for themselves and eventually other organisms. They serve as the bottom of the food chain. Most producers make their food through the process of photosynthesis, something we've covered already in class. Hopefully, you remember that the food that the producers make is called glucose, which is also called sugar or carbohydrate. A lot of different, geez, a lot of different names. He's a friendly guy. For a lot of different names for that that sugar that is made during the process of photosynthesis. And producers make food for the rest of the ecosystem. By the way, that was Yogi who joined us on the slideshow. That might be a part of my Google form. You know, what happened when I was talking? Look for that on the Google form. That way I know you actually watched my slideshow. All right, let's see what's going on here. Every ecosystem, their survival is dependent upon the producers, right? Whatever those producers are. Now, on land, we always think about plants. However, if it's not land, if you're dealing with, two-thirds of the earth is covered with water, you might find algae. That's like a protist, or you might find diatoms, microscopic organisms in the ocean. These guys over here sometimes are oftentimes lumped into a different thing called phytoplankton. Right, so these are both classified as being phytoplankton, both algae and diatoms, which are also the dominant producers in ecosystems. All right, so if you're dealing with the land, you got trees and grasses. Right, that's terrestrial. Right, that's the type of ecosystem. Those would be your autotrophs. Then you've got, if it's algae, you might have diatoms or seaweed for aquatic, and then for bacteria, there's also cyanobacteria uh, as well in your slides. All right. So anyway, that's just part of it. Knowing your producers is just part of this. We're going to be talking about also consumers and decomposers, right? If we're looking at this leaf, it's being broke down. It's by the FBI. You probably remember that from your talked red, right? Breaking down the leaves is an important process because it releases the nutrients back into the soil. We talked about that with the nitrogen cycle and the carbon cycle, about the recyclers, right? So once again, we already covered the producers. Here they are over here. Some classic producers. These look like ultra terrestrial. And then we got the consumers. These are like Yogi right there. It's the ones that actually that eat these organisms over here. And then we have our decomposers, once again, the fungus, the invertebrates. The organisms that obtain their energy from other organisms are called consumers, right? So, and then our decomposers. Don't forget that, like that, the FBI, the BI, I don't know where the invertebrates are, but the bacteria and the fungi that release the nutrients back in. So you'll be looking at that on some of your slideshows, right? So if you're going to be dealing with the consumers, you can further classify your consumers based on what they're eating. Now, if they're eating plants, if they're eating autotrophs or the producers, so they eat the producers directly, they're herbivores. Right? You know an herbivore, right? A cow's an herbivore. A goat's an herbivore. Do you just eat plants? Now, carnivores eat meat, right? They don't eat plants. They eat the animals that ate the plants, like a snake, right? A snake eats a mouse. The mouse ate a plant, right? So the mouse is a primary consumer, and the snake is the secondary consumer. And that means what's the bird? It's the third level, right? So the third level is called tertiary. And then the fourth level will be quaternary. Rarely gets beyond the quaternary level. Now, an omnivore, like me, I will eat both plants and animals. Do it almost every night for dinner. Last night I had broccoli. That was my producer, right? The autotroph. And I had some chicken. So I ate a primary consumer. Right? And then I also had some bread, right? Which comes from flour, which would be more primary. So I didn't go too far up the food chain. Generally speaking, you don't usually eat snakes or birds, carnivore birds, right? Generally speaking, the meat isn't that good. My friends that go duck hunting always say that, the ducks that eat eat meat are not the ones that you want to eat themselves. All right. Anyway, I hope this helps. This is about the producers, consumers, and a little bit on decomposers. Hope this helps. Check out the next slideshow. See if I can figure out how to stop this thing. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop this thing. Here we go.